Hello. No sound. Oh, hold on one second. Make sure we get some sound over there.
Yep.
Hey everyone, just making sure that we have sound now. Let me know in the chat box. Okay, everybody, we're going to get some started. Hello. Okay. Do we have sound again? Oh, man. Sound was there, then it wasn't. Oops. I think I broke it. I think it looks good now, though, again. I know what button I clicked wrong. Oops. Sorry, everybody. Okay. I clicked the wrong button. Okay, good. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll do that intro again. Sorry, everybody. Okay, good thing I caught that before we got too far in. Nice. The lovely things of going live. See, Adriano?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, everyone, this is Adriano, and he is a diet and nutritionalist specialist outside London in the UK. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at his website, healingdietcoach.com. If you guys want to kind of bring that up and already peruse through it, feel free. It is actually a beautiful website. But we are going to critique his website, help him out today, and hopefully we can improve both his website and his business at the same time. So without further ado, why don't we I'll just do a quick review. I'm going to jump over into the homepage. And what we're going to do is let's review this bad boy. Okay.
Yep.
So right now I'm on your homepage, and I'm not sure if you're watching the live stream or not, Adriano, but I didn't think about that. So you can kind of see what I'm seeing. Actually, maybe what I should do is I will share. Interesting. Okay. So I'm at your homepage right now. Okay. And hopefully everyone else can see it. And so at the very top is your logo. Okay. That's kind of the first kind of a very important thing. And I think you already mentioned this, but it's very thin, right?
It's very thin.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you said you're using Avenir there for the font, and it's especially the Healing Diet Coach there up at the very top. It's very difficult to see, right? Okay. So I would definitely rethink. The font with your name is very interesting. First off, do you want to have your brand as the Healing Diet Coach or as your name? That's something, you should think of as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to be the Healing Diet Coach? Maybe that should be the bigger font and then your name below it.
Okay.
Because this isn't Adriano Mangogna.com, right? This is the healingdietcoach.com. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, in fact, the designer suggested me to also buy the adrianomangogna.com because she's saying, you can unite this website together.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to have the same exact website, right? I mean, you don't want to have the same URL featuring both, the same website. But, like I have joeworkman.net and Weaverspace, right? Actually, just yesterday, side note, I republished joeworkman.net is no longer that old website that I used to have. It's just a kind of a temporary splash page now. But that's something that, you could have an Adriano Mangogna. It could just be a one-page website that says who you are, and it points them to the healing coach, right? The healing diet coach, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to, seems like there's dueling brands. Is it Adriano Mangogna or is it the healing diet coach, right?
Okay.
And I think that while I love the type on your name, I think it's very cool and very modern, very different. If you wanted to use that, it needs to be bigger and or bolder, right? Because it is kind of hard to read in that very font because it's kind of a light gray, and on top of that, it's very thin, and the combination makes it very difficult to read. Okay. And especially that and below it where it says the healing diet coach, that is not only thin, it's a very light green, and it makes it very difficult to read, right? So, either, if you use something thin, you normally have to make it big, right?
Yeah.
To kind of counteract that thinness.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's an excellent advice. This one is the horizontal version of my logo. I also have the stacked version, which of course I didn't put it on the website because it will take too much of too much space on the height, too much height. So yeah, but it's something that I can speak with the designer for sure.
Sure. Cool. Excellent. Next up is so I noticed that a lot of your pages have some beautiful I love the stock art that you chose. I assume it's stock art, right? Or did you take these photos?
Yes.
Okay.
Adobe stock.
Okay. So good. I love Adobe stock too. I think the quality of the work there is beautiful. But while this image is extremely lovely, it takes up a lot of space on the page, especially valuable space on the page that doesn't do anything. Right?
Okay.
Right. Especially, I mean, later on, we'll look at this page on mobile and, while the banner image is beautiful, you could jazz that up a little bit, like maybe put some sort of call to action here. Right. So another thing that's up at the top, you have this begin the journey today button, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
That's good. Normally, you want to have a strong call to action at the very top right corner of your site. And actually,
Okay.
I would make it, if you were going to have this button up here, I do it this hovered style instead of the thin one, right? Because this is more bold, right? If you're seeing this, when you hover over that button, it's the green button with the white text. That is a lot more, that draws my eye a lot more because that's what you want someone to click on, right? You want them to click on that, and they'll click on it when they see it, and when it's in the default state, that button, it doesn't attract my eye.
Yeah, of course, because it's white. It's kind of transparent.
Exactly. It's the pretty thing to do, right? It's the pretty designer thing to do, which is exactly what you've done. It makes it look elegant. It looks like a piece of work of art, but it's not going to help you make money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So by making this button more bold, it's gonna be more eye catching. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Now another thing, what I would do is I would this image, is this an impact or what is that?
That's an impact.
Perfect. Okay. So Impact has a feature that allows you to have overlays on top of the images, right? Okay.
Okay.
And what I would do is I would put an overlay over this image so that we're still benefiting from this image because it's still accentuating our content. It's showing beautiful food, right? But the image itself isn't content, right? It's purely an accent piece. Okay.
Right.
So what I would do is I'd put an overlay on the image, and then at that point, I would put some sort of catchphrase and maybe even another call to action here to begin your journey today.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And maybe something that says what journey are they beginning? Right. Are you sick of the everyday of not feeling well? Begin your journey today, or something, something along that lines where, you're catching it right here. It's right in the middle of the page. And at that point, maybe if it's good enough, maybe you can remove that button at the top right. That's up to you. Okay. But maybe what you could do is, as they scroll down the page, maybe you can have that button automatically show. You know what I mean? Use like Tav has a scroll up stack. I think it's called scroll up, right? Or pin that, as you scroll down the page, it will then display. You know what I mean? So that call to action is going to be at the top right corner as they scroll down the page. Maybe it's not there at page load, because on page load, you're going to have this big one here in the impact that's going to say, wow, start your journey today, right? And then as they scroll down, they still need to see a call to action, because if they're scrolling down the page and they're reading this content here, you want to have that call to action right there so they can click on it. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's lovely. I think that one change alone, your icon, your logo, and then that call to action is going to make a huge game changer for you. I think that's a huge change that you can make. Okay. This text, I think the fonts you chose, they're relatively pleasant. They're pretty easy to use, easy to read. This text here is pretty nice, nicely formatted. I did notice there's a little line break here. I don't know if you meant to have a paragraph here. And so when I inspected this page earlier, I'm gonna get a little technical here. I noticed there's some funky styles inside the paragraph text. For some reason, it looks like you styled this first sentence black. And so it just has this kind of weirdness. I'm not sure if this is a RapidWeaver. I remember seeing in RapidWeaver, one of the 8.1 releases, there was a bug inside the style text views that I believe has been fixed now. You might want to go here, select this text in RapidWeaver and say clear formatting. Okay. And because right now, if you wanted to change your text on your page to be slightly off black, which actually I actually like, something like a 222 or something like that, something a little bit off black, which is still very, very dark, but it's not black. Because of these if you notice these spans here, no matter what you change it to in site styles, that text is always going to be black. And so you want to make sure you clear that. I caught this by luck, actually. I was just like, I wanted to see what font you were using, so I inspected it and noticed that these spans. Now, another thing that I've never actually said this, I don't think. I think it's the first time I'm going to say this, but you're using a foundation paragraph stack. And while that's great, I think there's, over the years, we found a lot of limitations with that. And mostly it's the limitations with that style text view that RapidWeaver uses, and that's what the paragraph stack uses. It's not the best. What I'd recommend you use, and now Foundation 2 is going to do this for us, but obviously nobody has that yet. What I'd recommend you do is check out the Scribe stack from Tav. If you don't have it, it's called Scribe. It's basically a fancy markdown stack, okay? And it integrates fully with Foundation. So you have all the features in the Foundation paragraph stack, but it's in Scribe. And what's beautiful about that is when you type the text in Markdown, and I can show you an example of it later on. You don't need to know any of the syntax if you don't want to. Just type as you would type a normal paragraph in your paragraph stacks, and Scribe will do a better job at formatting this text on the page. And it still has all, like I said, it has all the Font Pro and Site Styles hooks that you would have inside the paragraph stack. So what I would do is I would just recommend that you swap out these paragraph stacks for a scribe stack until Foundation 2 can be released, where its paragraph stack will work more like Scribe does. And it will use the Markdown, which has better output for HTML and text and stuff like that. So, but for now, check out Taz's Scribe stack. It's a great one. And yeah. So yeah, your fonts, I enjoy them. I think it is a nice readability. Your line, one thing that's good is your line lengths aren't too large, right? It's probably on the cusp, right? Because when you're reading text, if you want it to be a lot more readable, what font size you're using here? Let's see. You have 1 rem. Try to bumping that maybe to like 1.1, something like that. Large fonts nowadays are kind of like the fad, right? And there's 2 things to think about with fonts, right? Especially on mobile, because if you're on a mobile device, people are gonna be holding the phone away from them. They're not gonna be really close to the screen. So having the text a little bit larger, it's gonna be easier for them to read. Okay. Next up is line lengths. Actually, this is something that most people didn't even think of.
Sorry, Joe.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. So 1.1 on desktop and mobile also, or just desktop?
Play with it. Try 1.1 on both and see. Right. It's possible that you might think it's too big or whatnot. I know some people that go to 1.2 even for their default text size. For some things, I think that might be a little too big, but I think 1.1 for short little paragraphs that you really want people to read, making it bigger will draw their eye and they'll read more of it actually. Okay. And another trick to get people to read more is to make the line lengths shorter. Okay. So like for instance here, I forget the recommended number of characters per line, but you're not too far off it. I might break it off where on the first line where the yourself is, something like that. Like if you ever read a book, that books, I don't know if you've ever read like a book that has really wide, pages. And then if you look at a book that's really narrow pages, a lot of times books have narrow pages is because of the line length. Okay. Because people will read a line and then they'll be done. It's not read, right? You want to read short little bits. There's actually a great video. I've posted it a couple times on Weaver Space from, I just drew a blank. I've recommended it many times. There's a fabulous video. I'll try to find it and I'll post it later. He's a typography guru from Adobe, and it's quite lengthy. But I've read it. Watch it. I'm gonna have to find it now because now it's gonna bug me.
I think you posted these on your website on the font.
Yes, I posted it on Weaver Space. I did. Actually, here, maybe we'll go to Weaver Space and find it over there. That way. Oh, I'm not logged in.
Yeah, I think I've noticed this link that you've posted when I bought the stack, because on the kind of FAQ, frequently asked questions or recommended links, you posted this.
Yes. Here, I know I posted it to the typography group a while ago. Hopefully it's still in here. Here it is. Tim Brown. There we go. Typesetting body text. This video, it's an hour long. But if you can get through it, it is great just for, he gets pretty geeky with fonts, but one thing that he really goes over is experimenting with how to find the proper size, how to find the proper fonts, how to find the proper line lengths for your site. And so if you really want people to be able to read the text that's on your site, check out this video. Again, it's in the typography space on Weaver Space. It's called Typesetting Body Text by Tim Brown. He's one of the guys behind Adobe Typekit, or now it's called Adobe Fonts. Yeah, it is just spectacular. I've watched the video 3 or 4 times. It's great. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. So now next up is, while I said all the things that you could do to, modify these fonts to make people read them, I think you've reached about the maximum length of what people would potentially read. Most people nowadays, they'll never read this entire paragraph. Okay.
Wow. Really?
I mean, I mean, to be honest, it's true. Everybody scans websites now. They're going to scan your page. They're going to look at they'll read this title. Okay. But they're most likely, to be honest with you, probably 80-90% of the people, maybe even 99% of the people won't read this paragraph.
Okay.
Okay. What they're going to do is they're going to read this. And if that intrigues them enough, a couple people may read the first sentence or two. And after that, they're either going to leave your site or continue on. Right. And I notice here after this paragraph, there's no action to be done with this paragraph. Right. It's just kind of a paragraph. There's no real purpose to it. Now maybe if you had that call to action up here, you can reference that in the text, like, contact us today, maybe with another link or something like that. Right. But yeah, this text doesn't really serve too much of a purpose, other than, obviously this tells you a little bit about what your services are. Right. So next up, another thing I noticed, your logo, consistency. Okay. Over here, you have the logo that's kind of colored and styled up at the top corner. Right.
Yeah.
And the logo that's below you isn't.
Yeah, I kind of made it alternate style.
Okay.
Do you think it's not cool?
I think, with your logo, you should try to be consistent, and especially, on your website I think it would look fine here. It doesn't, because it's not overbearing. It's not totally, I get what you're doing. You're matching the colors of all the text here. Right. I don't know. I would think that, your logo here would actually look quite nice. One thing you've done really well on this page is chose a very pleasing color scheme. Your logo is green with some red. You have green and red in these stock images. You have it over here in the salad on the left, which I love, which I'll get to in a second. And I think that wouldn't look out of place here. Right. But with that said, down here at the bottom in this darker area, I'm not sure that the color one would look good. Right. There's two camps. I can see what you're doing from a stylistic perspective, but there are some, brand Nazis that would say you should never change your logo. And it gets recognition especially on the white. I think it would still look good. Okay, further down the page, this form, it's probably the ugliest thing on this homepage. Just to be, I'm not going to pull any punches. I don't know. I'm not loving it. Okay. Yeah. I think one thing, it's just like these 4 boxes is kind of funky. I would think, do you really need to have their name? Just get an email address, or either that, or just do a name field in an email or something like that. Yeah. And I don't know, test it out. Are you using Cloudflare by chance?
I'm not.
Okay.
What is?
Okay, maybe we can go that in a little. Maybe at the end, I'll review what Cloudflare can do for you. Remind me. But I know a lot of people are worried about spam and things of that nature, so they add these human tests, or they add something like reCAPTCHA to a page. And I don't know. I don't have those on my forms on my website, and I never get spam submissions. And I think one of the reasons is maybe I'm using Cloudflare, and Cloudflare has a lot of security things that block known hackers and known spammers and things of that nature. But yeah, this is an extra field that I don't know. It's yeah. And also, I think you're using. Is this a foundation form? What form is this?
Yes, that's the new newsletter form. I think it's the stack that I bought from your website.
Oh, post office. I should check. It's post office. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Post office. The form stack. Yeah. Post office. Yep. You're right. Okay. One thing I would do is the placeholder. It's very dark. I would choose a different placeholder color. Something a little bit lighter. Maybe another thing that you could do is maybe make these the fields taller or larger a little bit. My favorite, to be honest, my favorite newsletter sign up is just an email and a button. That's it. right?
Yeah.
What's beautiful about that is just it could be an inline form, so you'd have the email and the button right next to it. Okay, so it's simple, and it's less information that the person needs to enter in to get on your list. You want their email, right? While their name might be great, you can get that later on, right? Their email is really important. So just to have the ability to say, "What's your email?" Send. That's it, right?
Yeah.
It's people are lazy, right? I mean, to be honest, right? People are lazy. They're going to see I have to fill out 4 fields to join this guy's newsletter. Seriously? Like, really? 4? Now you could say that, you don't want lazy people, and you don't, you want to make sure that they, there is tactic or in that as well. Maybe some strategy there where, maybe you don't want those people that won't take the time to fill out their name as well. I don't know. But one thing you could also do is not make it so wide, right? If you wanted to have more than just the email and the button, maybe you can have, name, email, and then the button, right? And then, they could be on top of each other, but just shrink it, right? Let's go ahead and test this out here. Right.
I tried to shrink. I actually didn't find the option to shrink it. Maybe I.
You can shrink it in. Just make the column stack, right? Because by default, the post office fills the width, right? So what you do is in the column stack that it's in. Okay. Here, let's.
Yeah, I need to put it inside the column stack. That's the one.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, it was too wider, and I didn't like it too much.
Right.
That's very helpful inside a column stack.
Yeah. So if we did that, let's see. Did small 6, right? I mean, something, and imagine that was centered, right? I don't know if you can see what I'm doing right now, right? But imagine if that was centered, it would look a lot more attractive. And maybe if the email and if instead of the first name and email being on one line, if they were on 2 lines, I think that would look a lot more attractive. Maybe try to make the inputs a little taller, something of that nature. I think it would really look a lot better. Okay. So let me refresh, get rid of my changes. Next up at the bottom, you have this is a very minor thing.
Yeah.
I triggered my Alexa somehow. Okay. This is a ginormous line. Maybe break it up a little bit. I understand this disclaimer is very important for your style of website. Maybe I'd put that on its own line and then do the Adriano all rights reserved and then terms and conditions and privacy policies on a line below that. Maybe also, I don't know. I don't think you need the icons here on the terms and conditions and privacy. That's getting very nitpicky, to be honest with you. That's just a personal preference. I think it would be fine with just having the text links. Maybe after the you'd have copyright, all rights reserved, and then terms and conditions. You know what I mean? Something like that. All of that that's very nitpicky. It doesn't really matter. No big deal. I enjoy your footer. Let's talk about the overall page, kind of the look. I like how you use seams. It is very nice. You could use in seams if you wanted to add a little bit of pizzazz to the page. In version 1.2 added some animations where maybe on page load you could have something subtle, right? Go subtle. I don't think going really crazy animations or infinite looping animations is really what you need. But I think having, like, when the page loads, just having maybe the wave just a little bit in the seam could add a nice little touch, just so someone could go, oh wow, that was nice. Did that just wave? And it just adds a little pizzazz. I like you're very consistent with that. Some things you're not consistent with, I've noticed, is buttons. This button here, the journey, like you used ghost buttons here, but there are other buttons throughout your site. Like on the contact page, I think it was. I didn't notice that opened in a new tab for some reason. No, there were other. Hold on one second.
I changed it today on the.
Oh, you changed it. Ah, okay. when I looked yesterday, I noticed you had like 3 or 4 different styles of buttons on throughout the site.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it looked like you changed that. Okay, good. That's always good. Define your centralized look and really go for that, right? One thing I loved this little accent that you did on the side of the browser with the salad. That was world class. I like that. I really love that. I did notice when you go to certain browser sizes, it was on height. No, when was it? It was only when you get really extra wide. So it's not that bad. But it does sort of cut off. If you notice, when you make the browser super wide, that image kind of gets cut off. That's a very minor detail. I'm not sure. I think you're using Blueprint for that. I'm not sure if there's some sort of max sizing availability there. I think that's very minor. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think other than when people going super wide, which I don't think not many people are going to view your website this wide, right? It's a minor thing, but great, bravo on that. There is I've noticed when you start getting into tablet size though, it does bleed under the text, which makes some of that text really hard to read.
Yes, exactly. I noticed that, but I didn't. The option would be to kind of make it a bit more blurred or maybe darker.
I have a potential interesting solution for you. That it would be interesting to test. Okay, to see if it works. What if you put a white? So the background of this text area is white, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
What if below this text, maybe you'd have to add a little bit of padding away from this image. Okay, a little bit. Oh, another thing, actually, look at how I changed this line length a little bit. And I don't know, at least to me, this length that it's at right now makes it easy to read. Like when I made the browser window wider, just kind of going back to my point, right? Making that wider, that's now like uncomfortable to kind of read, right?
But
so
are you kind of? I can't see your desktop though.
You can't. Okay. But just, one thing to note. So let me get back to my design idea about what to do when that text overlaps that side image. Okay. What if you were to put a transparent white background on that text? Okay.
Okay.
What that means is when it's not overlaying that that image, you're not going to notice it because the background is white already.
Okay.
Okay. But oops. Okay. But when you're going on mobile or tablet, when it's kind of overlaying that image, it could potentially soften that blow. So you have this white overlay that would overlay the image a little bit, another thing, I think on Blueprint, you can potentially, swap out that image on, tablet size or something like that. Or you could just shift it a little bit on tablet because there's on tablet there's a lot of space, white space on the right of that text area. You can just shift it over a little bit and center it a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not seeing my desktop right now. Here, let me see if I can.
I'm using sidebar for that for that stack. Oh, nice. Now I see your desktop.
Okay. So, so here, if we look at this,
oh wow, yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. See, so, but there's a lot of extra space over here, right? That you could leverage.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, that makes sense. We need to work on that.
Okay.
Things already, Joe. Wow.
No problem. No problem.
I've got to work. Just that's lovely.
Let's move on to your about page. Same thing up here. This image is lovely. I think you could potentially, add an overlay to this, maybe to add maybe a title or something like that to the page. Maybe you can move this this quote here into the impact that overlays this image, right? Could be an interesting thing. Now, one thing I do have to say, I liked your idea of using this fade. I think this is a fade seam. It's a very interesting transition because here you're using curved lines, and then here you're using, you know, kind of hard edges. And I thought that was a very interesting way to transition into that.
Yeah.
You did pretty well on that. I think, you know, if I like this grid, and this grid kind of breaks away from this, you know, the softness that you have with the curves.
Okay.
You know, yeah, I think you've done a pretty decent job with that on this page.
Okay.
You know, you could potentially, you know, if you really wanted to make it seamless, you know, reformat this a little bit so that it didn't use these harsh lines, because it does kind of conflict with the curves a little bit. So, you know, maybe like on your homepage, you know, you had this, you know, your nice picture over here. It was rounded. The round really goes with the round curves, right? And the content here is seamless because there is no dividers.
Right. Yes.
Oh, geez. My dogs are barking. Darn mailman. Okay.
Oh,
There we go.
okay.
So anyway, so I don't have a specific advice, but maybe you could potentially do that, right? Where you could build these into different sections, still use kind of your round image, and still get that more curvy, soft feel to the page. Okay.
Yeah.
And same thing with the subscribe form on the bottom. I think that's on every page, right? Your services page. This page looks different from when I saw it yesterday. Oh, here's one of those buttons, right? This is a sweep button, I can tell, but it's definitely a completely different style, right? And then I think this may be aligns or dividers. That's kind of funky down here as well. You've kind of broken off the softness. One thing, if you don't want to have these S curves everywhere, what you could do is use like Seams has a curve, just a normal curve. And if you just make that almost look straight, right? Like really soften that down, right? So it's just a normal curve. And what you could do is just really take that down so it's almost flat. And what that's going to do is it's instead of having this harsh line here, it will give you kind of a more you know, rounded feel. Even though you can still have that flat, you know. So it's kind of a good compromise where you can have kind of a straight-ish edge, but we'll round it, and that'll make it look better with the soft curves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you mean in the service page?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm on the services page towards the bottom where it says book your free discovery call. Right.
Yes.
That hard green edge that you have there. If you used a Seams curve, just a normal curve, that instead of it making like a mound, like very, you know, extravagant curve, just make it almost flat where it's still a curve, but just very subtle. I think that would add a roundness to that. That would make it transition a lot nicer with the rest of the S curves on the page. Okay.
What do you think? Like these kind of bumps or rounds, the ones that are flat, the seams that are flat, but actually they are round on the edges. You know, you've got things like grasses.
Oh yeah, no, I was thinking more of I think it's called curve. It's just okay. I think it's just called curve. I would just do a curve, and you know, in the curve you can adjust how round it is. I would make it almost flat. But you know, by doing that, it just makes it a very subtle curve, which, you know, takes away that harshness of that really hard green line.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Cool. This pricing table, it looks rushed.
Yeah, that's actually how it was, because I made it. I finished it today.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
It was kind of. This is the kind of style that I would like. With this beautiful match height stack.
Yes.
That gives attention to the best deal.
Yep.
Really.
Yes. This pricing table strategy is great. obviously, normally you create 3 packages, right? You have, let's say low, medium, high, and medium is normally where you want everyone to go, right? Okay. And the high package is for people that really want something premium, right? But so normally when you go for the 3 package deal, you take the medium, you remove some key things, so you have kind of a lower package that is priced, but you have some really key things in that medium package that people are like, man, I really want that, and that's the one that you're really trying to get people to do. And then maybe you tack on some some niceties that are more like luxuries for the high end package, right? And basically what you're doing is you have your low package, which people, see that as the low package. Then you have your high package that people go, oh, wow, that's maybe a little bit more than I want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go for the medium package, which is what you wanted them to do. Yeah. Right. So that's the whole strategy here. It is completely up to you whether or not you want to list prices here. I think, I personally like that. There is a, strategy that people say, it's better to call because maybe you can wheel and deal. I don't know. I personally just like being upfront, showing all my prices. I like that as a customer as well, right? So, are you planning on doing that, or you just want to have, discover more and have you call?
No, actually, it was planned to put the prices there.
Okay.
Ready for this morning. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I would keep these like this middle deal. You have 3 lines. I would try to reduce that to 2 if you can, and maybe even create little fun package names for these, right? Like you have superhero, right? Something, so that's fun. I like that, so I would create fun, package names for them, instead of, low, medium, high or whatever, superhero is kind of a fun one. But maybe try to make them names that are relevant to, nutrition or something like that. Maybe superhero isn't the best, even though I think that's a fun name. I'm not sure it really goes with your entire branding, right? So maybe find some fun names, that you can label those packages as. The best deal, I like that it's green. It draws my eye straight to that, but the text in there needs to be bigger, right? Maybe make that a header, maybe white, bold, so that it really draws the name in there. Okay. I love your lists in here, though. The little check bullet lists. I think that's effective.
I thought it was better with the green if these check boxes were green, but I think
it's too much. That'd be too much green. Yeah. Too much green.
Nice.
Okay. Let's go to events. Now you said here you were planning on doing some more total CMS, like a blog or something like that. What's going to be? Are you planning more for the events page?
Well, for the event page.
Oh, you have a blog. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've got a blog.
Yes. I just
for the event page. Do you think it is something nice to put also the past events at the bottom so that people can see I'm active? I mean, I've been active, because it's quite difficult to have at the beginning of my career so many events so that people can actually see like, wow, I'm doing a lot.
Sure.
I usually have maybe once a month, one event.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up that in the event page, I always have just one event.
Okay. What you could do is, if you can create another blog, okay, and each event is a blog post. Okay. So what you could do is, at the top, you can maybe, display the latest event, and then you could have a blog list of, see our past events or something like that, and you could, display those. That could be an interesting approach if you wanted to be able to see, have people see. Now, is there it'd be great maybe if you had, some sort of, if they went into that event, had some sort of something that they could get, like, what's the benefit of, displaying those past events, right?
Okay.
That could be nice, other than just listing out, the past events. I mean, it's possible, right? You could just list them out just so people see that you've done it. right? There is benefit in that as well. And if you were to, and you could do that. So like you could say, in the past events, so in blog posts, you can date things in the future or in the past. Okay. By default, it only displays things in the past. So you could have two lists. You could say upcoming events, which inside the blog list, you could say only display things in the future. So you could say, here's our next 3 events coming. Okay. And then maybe you could say, here's our past events. And then, you only display the things that are in the past. And that way it's 100% automated, right? You just create a new event, and based on the date, the blog Total CMS will automatically put it in the proper, place for you on that page.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I will need to work on this one. But yeah, so I can use actually the blog list with Total CMS to do this. Yeah.
Yep. Yes. On your blog page, it's a nice blog. I mean, it's very simple right now. I would look at in blog 1.4 and Total CMS 1.4. I released some new layouts, some very interesting layouts, which allow you to have some blog posts go full width, and it gives you a lot more granular control over that. That way, some of these images you could really, could look really nice if it popped and were full screen. And then you could do different layout options. Look at that. It looks like this is a pretty basic blog list. You could definitely jazz it up. Something to be conscious of, like you're going 3 wide, and some of these titles on these blog posts are really big. And so, the title of the blog post is going, like, I'm looking at one right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines is the title, right? Because you're really crunching down those, because you want you have 3 columns on desktop, and yeah, so since those titles are really long, maybe you only do 2, right? If you're going to have a lot of really long, or decide that those title sizes can be shrunk down a little bit so they're not so large and taking up 7 lines, because it looks kind of funky.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Okay. But yeah, check out some of the options that you have. There's a project file on the Total CMS here on the doc portal. If you go to the Total CMS my doc portal, there's a project listed there for, I'm pretty sure it's there.
On the Total CMS in waiver space.
Yes. Yeah. So it's actually on docs.joeworkin.net. So if you go to the documentation there, you'll notice that at the top there's some links for demo projects, and I think it's the Getting Started demo project file, or no, it's one of those project files. It has some really cool layouts for Total CMS blog.
I'll definitely check.
Okay, check those. Yeah, because you could do stuff like where the first blog post is full width, and then you can do so it's 1 full width, and then below that you could have 2 or 3, and then below that you could have another full width one, things of that nature. So it really kind of staggers the layout, and makes things very interesting. Okay.
Do you think a sidebar would be a good idea? Maybe to link social media.
Yeah, so over on the side here, it does feel a little bit blank. That could definitely be a good idea. Link to, maybe you could have if you're categorizing or tagging these, you could link to various tags. You could have a search box where they could search your blog posts. Okay. Yeah. So that's common things you could have in a sidebar, is definitely search a list of tags or categories. Then definitely link to social media and all that jazz too. It's a good idea. Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Cool. I think I've gone through every page here. Is there any other open questions that you'd have?
Regarding the footer, do you think the color is a little bit darker, or would you put it? So let's say I'm gonna put the original logo color.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think overall is the color a bit too dark? Or,
to be honest with you, I personally like it. I think the gray, it really makes all the text there pop. Because you have to be conscious that when you're doing white on a background, if you made that gray any much lighter, it would make it really difficult to read.
Yeah.
Right. So you really want to have that contrast so that people can read it easier and things of that nature. Make sure that, again, in that footer, your logo, it's very thin font. That is borderline. It's easier to read here than it is at the top in your logo, but it is rather thin. So that's definitely something you should look into. But yeah, I think this gray goes well with the greens and the other colors that you're using on the page. I think it's really, really, really good. I like it a lot. If you wanted to have a couple extra accent colors, maybe a splash of orange or red throughout the page, maybe you can think of like maybe the sign up button, instead of a green, maybe you're using orange. Some apps that you could use if you wanted to kind of pick with what colors and maybe pick a color palette. There's one that I use. It's called Pika. Here, let me share my screen so that you could see it as well. And hopefully I think everyone else can still see. Okay. So I use Pika, and it is, what's my keyboard? There it is. So it comes up at the bottom. It's kind of it has my color history. But what's interesting, so in the latest version, if you click on this, they have like a nice kind of way of creating some color palettes. So like if you have this blue, what kind of other colors would complement it? So here's an orange that I could use, right? And so they have different, these are various color algorithms that you could do to find, colors based on this color of blue, right? Yeah, so it's an app called Pika, Pikka. And yeah, I like it. The only thing they're working on it is sync. So I actually have a bunch of color palettes on my MacBook Pro that you're not seeing here because they don't have sync ability. It's kind of annoying. I'm really frustrated with it. But outside of not having sync, which they are working on actively right now, it's a great app. Another app that I tend to use is called Spectrum. And this is for when I want to find, new and interesting color palettes. So here it's similar to Pika, where it has these various color algorithms, and you can kind of see that, it creates these color palettes for you. And you can kind of, you can lock in one color, and then, you can basically, kind of, move these colors around to kind of get you an interesting, complementary colors based on, these various things. It's nice. You can also, what's cool is you can take an image, you can upload an image, and it'll create a color palette for you based on an image, right? So here, let's quickly demo that. So like if I take, this image right here, it created this color palette based on this image here, right? So like, that's really powerful. Like if you like, I love this particular image. This is the image I want to use to kind of, as like the color basis for my site, drag drop it there. You magically have an entire color palette.
Nice one. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And you can adjust the amount of colors that you want. But it's really nice. That's an app called Spectrum. I don't use it very often, but when I do need it, it's a good tool to have. And a couple other sites. So Adobe actually has a really good, I think it's let's see, Adobe Color. Is it here? Adobe Color Wheel. This is a really free, a really great one as well. That just reloaded. That lets you pick, from the same. If you notice, it's all the same. Here's triad and complementary colors that those other apps do. It's just a slightly different, thing. And obviously it's free. It's on color.adobe.com. And this lets you create color palettes as well. And then you can save them. If you have an Adobe account, you can like save all these themes and whatnot. And then another one that I like, if you want to like peruse pre-made color schemes, there's one called Color Lovers. I think it's Color Lovers. Did I spell it right? Yeah. Colorlovers.com. So COLOUR lovers.com. And over here, if you go to palettes, you can browse just all kinds of interesting, color palettes. So if you're looking for some color inspiration, Color Lovers can be a nice app or website to look at.
That's interesting, and they will give you, of course, the HEX kind of number.
Yes.
X number.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, because these things are a little bit, if I didn't ask to you, I don't really know, because I think this is quite technical as a designing point of view. So yeah, it's good to know that. I don't know if you've noticed in the impact stack at the text is quite small, whereas if you click on the actual blog post, you will see that the text inside the stack, the impact stack is different, and that's how it should be.
Okay. So yeah, I didn't even look at your blog post page. That different style looks like, right? So maybe try to add the seams in here to kind of get that soft touch back, right, and stuff like that. So why is this text big and on this page it's not? Is that what you want? I assume you're using Font Pro, so you're probably what you should probably be doing is setting creating a font style for this, and then that way you can assign that font style to both pages to the headers that you have inside there. I'm assuming this is an impact stack, right? Yeah.
Yes. So I should put a font box.
No. Well, if you're using like the foundation header stack, you can actually define. You can pick inside the header stack what font style you want directly in the header stack. Font box will work as well, but it's baked into all the foundation stacks, so you don't even need that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I'm now, for example, on my blog page, and in the total CMS impact slide. Oh, maybe because I've got impact slide. When I go to open the Elf Inspector page, I don't have the option to actually manipulate the text somehow.
But I mean, you're talking about on the blog post page?
No, on the blog main page.
Oh, on the blog list. Okay, on the blog list page.
Is the foundation start the header, the impact header?
Oh, is this coming from? Oh, this is coming from. Okay, I see what you're doing here. I thought this was static text. This is coming from the very first blog post. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
Do you want me to share? How can I share my screen?
Sure, go for it.
How can I share it?
Remember that little green button at the bottom of your screen?
Oh yeah. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Oh.
Okay, got it. I see Microsoft Word. There we go. Yep.
Okay. So basically.
I see. Okay, so you're using the blog impact slide there. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you're probably gonna want to use a font box there. Sorry, I thought what you were building was you were just having a static up there at the top. You just had. I like that you're using you're using the latest blog post image. That's clever. I like that.
Yeah, I saw this tip from Ben on his tutorial.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was very handy. So do you reckon it's good to put a font box to put this whole stuff?
Yeah, you could put the impact inside of a font box. That would work.
Okay.
You know, yeah, that could work.
Right. Okay, that sounds good. Well, maybe we can try it now. Oh,
sure.
Let's go ahead.
Or another thing that you could do is you could target, I mean, inside Font Pro, you can just target a special custom class. And, you know, I can give you that, that class, maybe, you know, offline, if you can't figure that out. You could just target dot, I think it's, it'd probably be like dot impact space dot title. I think that's probably what it would be. And then you could target just that inside Font Pro, so you wouldn't need any font boxes or anything, because inside Font Pro you can target, not only you can create a style, but then you can also assign that to a custom CSS selector, which gives you all the power in the world.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, I will definitely try that. Let's try this one.
Okay.
Let's try.
I'm not sure you can add the impact slide directly in font. You'd have to add the whole impact into font box.
Oh, okay. So I will need to. What do you mean?
Basically, you'd have to add font box on top of impact, and then put the impact stack inside font box.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, impact doesn't let you put whatever you want in that particular area, or maybe it's the impact. The total CMS stack only allows you to put it inside the font of impact. You can't put it inside of a font box.
So if I put. Just trying to check what's the font. Sorry, hold on.
No problem.
Quickly check what's actually the font size that I'm using. Okay, I think it's okay. It's font style 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, something changed already.
Yep.
So that looks
if you're at a preview.
And I don't know why the internet connection is a little bit very slow these days. I'm not sure why.
Well, we're on Zoom doing a stream, so that could be.
Well, okay. Well, anyway, it changed.
It changed. So yeah, maybe you chose the wrong thing, but.
Yeah, probably I just got the wrong style.
Yeah. But no, here, let me show you a different way if you wanted.
Yeah. Why not?
So here, remove impact from the font box.
Okay.
All right. Now go to the style that for the header. The font style in Font Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Not the the family's getting, it's just the style that isn't getting applied correct, right? It's just the style. I think the proper font's getting applied. No?
No, it's actually the font is not applying.
Oh, okay. Oh, so another thing. Okay, well let's look at this. Okay, so one thing you want is you probably want like Railway to be assigned to all your headers throughout your entire site, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so right now you have it set to Vault 1, which is fine. But what you should do is if you click on page, apply to page, down, where apply font family, click on page, scroll down a little bit. And there what you can do is you can apply it to specific. So if you want Railway to be on all of your headers, you apply it to H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. and deselect the paragraph.
And deselect paragraph.
Yes. So click on P.
I need to select H1 in the paragraph then.
Yeah, click H1. Yeah. Click H2. Click all the H's. And then unclick the A. The very first one.
Yes, absolutely.
There you go.
Sorry.
Okay, so now all the headers will get railway. Okay, now click the next one. Okay. Now on this one, click on page. And then what you want to do is so that's correct, but you also want to have this to be your default page font. So for everything. So what you're going to want to do is click that page wide default. And that will do is any text on the page, it will default to that first unless a different font is applied.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Because I always went back, go back to check which kind of vault is it, what kind of style.
Yeah, this way, if you just added H3 to the page, it's going to get railway. Doesn't matter. Right? Nice. It makes it a little bit easier. So that way you don't need to worry about font vaults and all that stuff. Those are great in some situations, but you should have defaults. And that's how we do that. Cool. So now let's look at your font styles. And let's look at the style for that blog title.
Blog title is the font style 1. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's click on that. And scroll down to the apply to settings. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply to and click custom. Okay. Wow. Now we'll give you a selector that you're going to type in there. Type period or dot.
Yeah.
Impact dash. No, not an underscore, a dash.
Dash.
Yep. Wrapper. WRAPPER. And oops, hold on, I gotta find the.
No problem.
Where is slide content? Where is the slide content? Oh, there it is. So do a space H3. I think lowercase h actually. Just do lowercase h. Okay. And that should be it. So what this is going to do is it's going to find inside impact. It's going to target all H3s, and it's going to apply this font style to that. Okay, let's preview the page. It should work.
Nice.
There we go. Okay. Now, if you didn't know, let's say you didn't know that impact was impact dash wrapper, right? It could be kind of hard for you to know that. Let me tell you a full proof way to basically do it yourself anytime. Do you have my CSS box stack?
I don't. Where? I mean, maybe I can check on the library.
Here, let's see if you have CSS box. No. Okay. For right now, use. I think Fontbox has this feature as well. Look at Fontbox.
Let's see.
All right. So add impact back into that Fontbox. In the future, you could do something similar to this with my CSS box stack. But you have Fontbox, so okay. And put, oops, not in there, yeah.
Hold on. I need to get, I need to exit. 1 sec. Box. What is So the impact stuck inside.
Yes, that's correct. Oops. Looks like you have a font box inside of a font box. How did that happen?
Oh. But overlapping. One sec. I need to delete one. That's it.
Okay, let's look at the font box settings.
Sorry, it's a bit slow.
It's okay. Maybe click the inspector button in the toolbar. Maybe that's it.
Oh, yeah.
There it goes. Okay, see where it says custom class?
Yeah.
Okay. Type in, I don't know, banner. Okay. Save that. Now let's go back to that font styles. Now, for those who are watching, if you don't have font box, you could do the same thing with CSS box. There's a custom class setting. I use CSS box all the time. So where it says blog title, okay, click on that. Look at the settings. Now where we typed in that impact dash wrapper, replace that with the word banner. So you're gonna do dot banner.
Dot banner. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, dot banner, because so dot is for classes. So dot banner, and then after banner, do a space H3. So what this is doing is, so we created a box inside font box, and we gave it a class of banner. So what this is saying is, find everything that has a class of banner, and then what we're doing is space H3 says find all H3 tags that are inside of there and apply that style to it. So this way, doesn't matter if you don't know what impact is, just throw it in a font box or a CSS box, put in a custom class, and then you can add that into Font Pro. And it should work. Drum roll, please. Boom.
Wow.
Right? And then you can do similar things for that paragraph text, right? You could just do dot banner space P, which is a paragraph.
Sure. Okay. The P represents the paragraph.
Yes.
Banner space P. Okay.
Yep.
I'll definitely do that.
Cool.
Wow, Joe,
cool.
Lots of things to
Excellent. Was there any other questions? We're kind of running a little bit over, but it's fine. If you got a couple other questions, I'd love to help you out.
Just very quickly, if you can go and check the contact page and just give me like a little.
Sure. Here, why don't you stop sharing your screen, and then we'll go back to.
Just trying to. One sec. Stop share. Yes.
Okay. So here we are. Let's look at this contact page.
I mean, in the future, I would really like visitors to buy actually the packages online. I think it does really make a difference instead of contacting stuff like that. This is just a temporary fix.
Yep.
But
contact page is pretty simple, right? Maybe what I would do is this entire get in touch and a paragraph could go up here in the banner, right? Like I said, a lot of these banners, while they look nice, they don't serve any purpose, right? So by putting some text that's interesting on the page, up in there, it actually serves a purpose, because these images are just, and this one's actually purpose because the middle area is blank. It's just dying to have some text there, right? Okay. This form, it's a pretty rudimentary form. Maybe right now you have a lot of these inputs touching each other. I don't know. Maybe I'd have a little bit of space in there, right? So they kind of separate them out. But I mean, it's a nice form. If you wanted, it is a little wide. Maybe like I said in the footer, maybe just take the one column that's in and reduce it a little bit. But I think that the page itself, from a design perspective, it's fine. It's functional. It has all of the necessary things. Maybe you want to, if a field is required, maybe in the label you can set it required or put a little asterisk or something like that. Because some people may be, not want to give you their phone number, obviously, right? So, if the phone number isn't required, just say optional or something like that, right? It could reduce the people's worries of, I don't want to give this guy my phone number, right?
Yeah.
A simple thing up here is if you wanted people to be able to call you directly, you could turn this into a telephone link, right? Maybe even up in your call to action, you could just have a phone link, and people could tap on it and call you. Just like a little font awesome icon, call me today,
Yeah.
If you want that, if you want people to be able to call you, or maybe just have it on this contact page here, just have a, call us now button. And because most Macs, most iPhones, most Androids, you tap on that link now. Even on a Mac, at least when I've tapped on them, it uses FaceTime and it tries to call with my iPhone.
Yeah.
So removing that barrier to entry could be nice, a nice touch.
That's great, Joe. Wow, absolutely, it does make sense what you're saying.
Cool.
It's great. This really helps me a lot. Helps me a lot. Yeah, I've been doing these sites now. I mean, I'm always working on it, but it's always good to have like a professional feedback.
Well, I'd say, I think you were worried about, it seems like you were very worried about the design of the site. I think the design is absolutely beautiful. You're definitely in the, top percentages of, sites that are being made. I think it's very lovely. I think the criticism I gave you was fairly minor, with the exception of like that call to action stuff that I talked. I think that's very important. Some really big stuff that you can do to really improve conversions and, people interacting with your site. We didn't really dive into social media and all that jazz. I'm not a pro in any of this, to be honest with you. But I hope I helped out a little bit.
Wow, a lot, Joe, a lot. I can't wait to actually go back through it over and over until I get these things done.
My pleasure. Cool. Here, I'm going to cruise through. I kind of ignored the chat room during the chat. Some people, kept on talking and chatting and helping each other out. But let me just look at that, see if there's any questions here. The questions on the apps they answered. So I had a question on custom classes. Yes, you can name those whatever you want, people. So I told Adriano to name it Banner, and but you can name it Red Fox if you want, or whatever you want. Type in some text. Obviously, it's only no spaces are allowed. You can use dashes, and basically then inside the selector you want to do dot and then the same thing you typed. So just to let you know, coming up in the very future, in future releases of cool software that we all love, we're gonna have a lot more access to classes and stuff like that. So it's gonna be definitely a power user feature in Foundation 2 and other cool software that's coming. Wink. We're gonna have a lot of access to classes and stuff like that in the very near future. So really good stuff there. So get used to those. They're very powerful, and we're gonna utilize them a lot in Foundation 2. Cool. Let's see. I've told CMS, but nothing in any CSS heading pages. Okay, cool. I think we're done. Thank you, Adriano. I appreciate it. I hope you got a lot out of it too. And I hope everyone in the chat that watched live, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this and found it useful.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone that synced in, and I appreciate your help, advices, and time, especially. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Adriano.
Bye-bye.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. And hope you enjoyed this week. We will be back. Actually, I won't be back next week. I'm going to be at a conference next week, so we won't be doing a live next week, but we'll be back the week after. And I actually have another one-on-one coaching call scheduled with Jeff Singletary. I think I saw him in the chat box. So hopefully Jeff will be rolling. I think that's the first Wednesday in April. Really excited about it. And hope you enjoyed this one-on-one coaching call. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and make some great websites.